Okay, we're in the battleground today. It is Wednesday, 12 October in the year of our Lord 2022. We've got candidates today as we expand the battlefield. We've got issues today that are driving this red tsunami. But I want to start off with the media and suppression and what's going on with candidates, etc. I've got RC from Project Veritas, but I want to start with the great Julie Kelly. Julie, you've been probably, I think, the best watchdog over the FBI of anybody in all media, and particularly the right. And normally you're covering court cases or what they're doing, but you got a very disturbing piece up on American greatness about it looks like the big tech and the apparatus and suppression of information for the midterms. Can you take your time and walk through exactly what you found in your investigative report?
Thanks, Steve. So this is based on the lawsuit filed by Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt, and he is really forcing the government's hand. He's suing government agencies and government employees to expose the collaboration between the government and big tech in terms of the pandemic, in terms of vaccines, and the election. Well, he just updated his complaint, and one of his defendants is a man named Elvis Chan. He is an assistant special agent in the FBI field office. He is a so-called cyber expert. Well, what Elvis Chan apparently really is, and this is based on my own research and what's included in Attorney General Schmidt's lawsuit, is that instead of overseeing and investigating the 300 plus Silicon Valley companies in his jurisdiction, what Elvis Chan really does is acts as a conduit between the FBI and big tech companies to tell them what speech, what posts, what information they should censor, they should suppress under the ruse of foreign disinformation or misinformation. And we see that this was successful, of course, in 2020 related to the reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Ho. But slow down, hang on, slow down. I've got the Schmidt part of it, and Schmidt's now running for the U.S. Senate, and he's a hammer. I've seen this lawsuit. Make the connection. Julie Kelly always brings the receipts. You got Elvis Chan as the guy that runs the field office out there in Silicon Valley for the FBI. How do you then make the connection that he's actually a coordinator feeding this different information? How do you back that up?
So what the lawsuit alleges is that Elvis Chan was one of two FBI agents who communicated with Facebook before the New York Post published its bombshell expose on Hunter Biden's laptop. Elvis Chan is named as one of the two FBI agents who communicated with Facebook officials. And as you know, Steve, and the world knows, especially after Mark Zuckerberg's interview with Joe Rogan in August, he again confirmed that the FBI reached out to him to designate any coverage of this or distribution of this as the effort of foreign malign actors attempting to interfere in the election. More important details in this lawsuit and Elvis Chan's own bragging is how frequently he is in communication with not just Facebook, but all social media platforms, that he is the guy. And he said before the 2020 election, he was in contact with these companies on a weekly basis to warn them about what the FBI predicted or had designated foreign election interference. And so he has, and now the other revelation that came out, Steve, is Elvis Chan goes back to the 2016 Russian election interference hoax. His name has popped up several times, and it's in my piece, in the evidence collected by Special Counsel John Durham in the criminal case against Michael Sussman. Elvis Chan had direct communication with Michael Sussman, CrowdStrike, which was the firm that allegedly investigated the Russian hack into the DNC email servers, which we know also is a lie. But he was sort of helping the FBI, Michael Sussman and the DNC, and CrowdStrike. He was sort of helping or trying to give the FBI's imprimatur on the notion that Russian hackers were responsible for that breach, which of course we now know also is not true. So his fingerprints date all the way back to 2016, certainly 2020 suppression campaign of the Hunter Biden laptop information. And now he's saying that he is on the lookout for more misinformation or disinformation on social media platforms about the 2022 elections.
Okay, let me go back to because we were the people that broke it and actually got it to the New York Post, and then of course War Room carpet bombed the revelations by the Chinese Communist Party of their financial influence peddling they did with the Biden crime family and the working, but also all the perversion of Hunter Biden. And we were there when they called it Russian disinformation, understanding it was a total lie. Remember, for the audience, the mainstream media has now backed this up. A year and a half afterwards, they've all, New York Times, Washington Post, they've taken a year and a half, and now it's correct. We knew it was correct at the time. The New York Post knew it was correct at the time. Murdoch's lawyers knew it was correct at the time. Everybody verified this and checked it out. Elvis Chan, he could not have done what he's doing now, but on the Hunter Biden laptop. He's such a senior guy, and they obviously would put a trusted asset out there to run that office. Is there any doubt in your mind that he had to have Maine FBI and senior level sign off on what he's been doing, ma'am?
He absolutely did. And one of the other people who communicated along with him with Facebook and other social media big tech oligarchs was Laura DeMello. She is a chief with this foreign interference task force that Christopher Wray put together shortly after his appointment in 2017. This is sort of the umbrella, Steve, the FBI's umbrella task force or operation that justifies warning media companies, social media companies, big tech, internet providers that what they could be posting, that's true, but what they could be posting if it denigrates a Democratic candidate is some sort of misinformation. So she was with Elvis Chan when these communications, when this correspondence was happening in October of 2020. So of course this has to have Christopher Wray sign off, and who knows who else in the FBI or DOJ, because if you go back and look at the emails in October of 2016 for the Russiagate hoax, the National Security Division, DOJ, was involved in that as well. And so it would not be surprising if this NSD, led by Matthew Olsen, who is also the guy signing off on all of the government's motions for the raid on Mar-a-Lago, if Matthew Olsen somehow is not involved either.
And Matthew Olsen's the head of the FBI. Our audience remembers Matthew Olsen from the clips with Matt Gaetz. Matthew Olsen, I think, is head of national security for FBI domestic, and he never knows anything. They ask him, "Where's the laptop? Where's this?" He doesn't know anything. I don't know. It's an ongoing investigation, or I don't know. This guy's never answered. Olsen's never answered a straight question with a straight answer on any congressional hearing we've ever seen him. Am I too over the top on that one, Julie Kelly?
Of course not. No, Matthew Olsen is head of the National Security Division for the Justice Department. He would not answer any questions by Matt Gaetz or any Republicans who asked him questions. But he did open up without any authorization or approval by Congress what he calls a domestic terror unit inside of the National Security Division. So you could see how all these operatives not only have worked together since 2016 with the birth of Crossfire Hurricane and the birth of the Russia collusion hoax, but now still working together just weeks before the midterms and setting up these same companies, regular, traditional, conventional media, and of course the Democrats to portray any criticism of this election as a result of foreign interference.
Real quickly, have you noticed? I noticed they're taking down McCullough, so they're really going out of their way to suppress anything about the vaccine. They're all over Naomi Wolf. They're all over Dr. McCullough. Other people. It's like a jihad right now. Have you noticed any other things about suppression that might have come from this coordination between the FBI and social media? Anything that pops up to your mind right now?
Not so much related to the election, but we will see as all of this information comes out about the vaccine and what has now been admitted in the European Parliament by a Pfizer executive that, of course, this wasn't supposed to stop transmission. But look, this is why Eric Schmidt's lawsuit is so important. He gets into the details of how big tech worked with the government and now the Biden administration to suppress any criticism, kick people off of platforms, of course, that were critical of the vaccine, now once again exonerated. So the big question now, this lawsuit really has some traction now. The judge is compelling the production of evidence. And we will see a lot more now that Elvis Chan and other FBI officials have been named as defendants, producing more evidence of their collusion with big tech to silence criticism of this regime and important life-altering decisions such as forcing people to take this vaccine.
Julie, how do people follow you on social media? How do they get to all your great reporting over at American Greatness?
Thanks, Steve. I'm at amgreatness.com. I'm on Twitter at Julie_Kelly2. I just covered a sentencing hearing for a family of 5 charged and pleaded guilty with parading in the Capitol and berated by Chief Judge Beryl Howell, if people are interested to see what these judges are saying to low-level trespassers who happen to be Trump supporters. But that's where people can find most of my coverage and my work.
Julie, thank you very much. Honored to have you on here, as always. One of the best investigative reporters out there. And everybody should go to American Greatness every day. Fantastic site, news site. Okay, very honored to have one of the warriors over at Project Veritas. Let's play the clip first. This is a classic. I guarantee you're going to want to play it over and over again, just as a study in how to do this. This should be taught in colleges for journalism. Let's go ahead and play it.
They're now both currently hiding in bathrooms.
Oh my God. How's it going? Didn't mean to scare you there. RC Maxwell with Project Veritas Action. Yep. Just wanted to ask you a brief question about statements that you've made. Oh, you just spilled your soda. Are you going to clean that up or just leave that here for the business? I just wanted to ask you about some comments you made on undercover footage regarding having a disdain for discussing politics now. Do you recall that, Secretary Hobbs? Kind of talked about how you don't like to discuss policy, you don't like to debate. Just wanted to know if that is informing your decision.
I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk politics to anyone who I don't know.
You've been caught on camera discussing your disdain for policy. Secretary, she's going inside of a restroom. She's ran. Secretary Hobbs has ran. She doesn't want to discuss policy with me.
I would love nothing more than the opportunity to have a substantive conversation about that issue.
Spokesperson, you want to talk about comments Mr. Hobbs have made on camera, undercover camera? Mr. Wolf? Your candidate is currently hiding. You don't own this restaurant. She's currently hiding in that restroom. You want to talk to me about the statements your candidate has made on camera?
He's a spokesman, isn't he?
She talked about running from a debate.
They're now both currently hiding in bathrooms. Mr. Wolf was here to save her. Now he's hiding in a bathroom. Secretary Hobbs he's out of the bathroom. Mr. Wolf is out of the bathroom.
We're going to leave. There's a car right here.
Considering your campaign drives around with an AR-15, don't you think rules for thee but not for me is problematic for someone running for state office?
Would Katie support something like an assault weapons ban?
If she could, yeah. I mean, the problem is that's a federal issue, right? There's nothing she could do about it.
Right.
At least.
Let's bring in RC.
Right?
Let's bring in RC. Okay, let's bring RC Maxwell in. I can't tell you how classic this is. I've looked at 1 million of these over my time in this line of work. This is one of the. It becomes funny, but it's funny because of their actions. Katie Hobbs is running for governor. She won't get on a debate stage, RC. You tracked her down, and there's so many amazing human moments in that. She knocks down the drink, and RC goes, "Hey, you knocked your drink down. You're just going to leave it for the crew to pick up?" She goes into a bathroom and locks herself in, and then Mr. Wolf's there. Mr. Wolf's in the bathroom. Brother, I got to tell you, it's a classic. Tell us, she's got to have PTSD now. She'll never debate. RC Maxwell actually made it so that Katie Hobbs will never debate Kari Lake. Impossible. She's got PTSD from this. RC, talk to us about it. How did you get all this great footage? How did you do this?
Well, thanks
Thanks
interview.
for having me on, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. This is what we do at Project Veritas. We go the umpteenth mile in order to get comment and to get kind of the unadulterated truth from people running for state office, people who are elite. And in the case of Secretary Hobbs, she's already someone who is Secretary of State of Arizona. She holds statewide office. And look, you've seen these kinds of interviews. I've done these kinds of interviews. James O'Keefe has. Sometimes people don't like to talk. Most of the time, you'll see members of private enterprise, maybe a Pfizer executive who may run. We've never seen someone quite of the stature of Miss Hobbs, someone who runs state office, Secretary of State, actually run in this manner. Recently, I had an interview with Senator Murkowski of Alaska. She had the dignity and respect to answer my questions, and you may not like her answers, but she did that. Secretary Hobbs, on the other hand, we've kind of seen this trend from her, an inability to kind of be an adult and face things head on. They say when you run from your problems, you're running a race you can't win. And in this situation, Secretary Hobbs is getting criticism from all sides, from not debating her opponent, Kari Lake, for not talking policy. And I think we're seeing a bit of a glimpse why. Our undercover reporter was able to obtain footage of Miss Hobbs discussing her disdain for talking policy, even with her own constituents in Arizona. So this is definitely an interesting time. This footage is taking off in Arizona. We have still yet to get a reaction from the candidate. She still has not commented publicly on this, although she did announce that she will be doing a one-on-one 30-minute interview with Arizona Public Broadcasting. So she'll speak with certain members of the media.
But she's trying to there's like a debate because Kari Lake's coming after us, but not. Here's of the footage which is so stunning. When you sit down, you could be any news guy. You could be with MSNBC or whatever. You put the thing and you say, hey, I've got a couple of questions about policy. What politician and state leader, and she's an executive, the Secretary of State, who would not at least let you ask a couple of questions and then say, she immediately, as soon as she sees you, she's running for the hills. In fact, knocks over the Coke and doesn't even look back. She's just sprinting and gets nervous and then runs into a bathroom. Who does that? What elected official, what executive in the executive branch of Arizona would do that instead of sitting there saying, okay, how tough are your questions going to be? I mean, you're going to ask, about elections, you'll ask about her running for governor, you'll ask the typical kind of things that reporters ask. What's so shocking, as soon as she sees you with the microphone, she's out. Am I wrong? Is that what it essentially was when you were doing it in real time?
Well, she was kind of startled before I identified myself as a Project Veritas reporter. And then once I did that, she definitely didn't want to have any involvement in that. Look, you say this is what reporters typically do. This is what reporters traditionally do, but we're in a new world of media, Steve. You know this better than most. These elected officials, these elites, they have backroom deals with members of the media where they don't have to answer tough questions about policy. We're less than 30 days out from a vote, yet we've still not seen a compare and contrast between the two individuals running for governor in Arizona, and Katie Hobbs is the reason for that. She will not debate Miss Hobbs. In her mind, she says publicly she won't do it because Kari Lake is a liar, although wouldn't you want to expose a liar in a debate? Although privately, what we've determined is that Miss Hobbs does not have an affinity for policy, which asks you, why is she running for governor?
Yeah. RC, incredible. I will tell you, I know because I've been checking, it's going super viral in Arizona. This is going to have a big impact on the election because people are saying, why is this woman not going to debate? And then she won't even talk to a reporter. She runs and hides in the bathroom. If you want to be governor of a major state like Arizona, you can't be hiding in the bathroom from a reporter. RC, how do people follow you on social media? How do they find out more about your reporting? And I know you're going to be following up on this story.
Well, obviously, like our other reporter, James O'Keefe, and our main account at Project Veritas, I am banned on Twitter. However, I am still on Instagram, and you can follow Project Veritas on Telegram to see our updates. Steve, I'm not going to give too much away, but you can read between the lines. All I'll say is that Project Veritas doesn't have any more reporters in Arizona in any campaigns. We have no more reporters anywhere in the country. So if you're hiding information, please rest easy and let it all hang.
R.C. Maxwell, thank you very much for joining us. Fantastic job out there in Arizona. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to make sure that thing is going super viral, and it's a classic. And by the way, if you're a young person and think about media, you should study that. That is a textbook, and that's how James, over the years, has started to train these young reporters, these young tigers, with Project Veritas. Just incredible. R.C. Maxwell, one of the best. Let's go to John Gibbs. I want to go to John. Here's a question I got for you. We're seeing this all over the country. These Democrats that don't want to embrace the Biden policies they vote for, they're running as moderate Republicans or even MAGA in their campaign ads. You're running against one of the ones that is basically the moral equivalent of Katie Hobbs. Tell us how it's going with the engagement. Or is your opponent still putting out ads with she's hugging a Bible, hugging a gun, sitting there with big crocodile tears with her family? Or is she finally going to get up and start debating the debacle that the Democratic Party is and these terrible policies on economics, on border security, on crime, on all of it, sir?
Well, you can believe she's trying to falsify who she is. She's trying to portray herself as a moderate. She is by no means a moderate. She is as far left as you get on every single issue. She ran a TV commercial trying to say that she wakes up in the morning and reads her Bible and drinks her coffee so she can be with her little boys. We were thinking, well, how do you know they're boys? What are their pronouns? That's what her real reaction should have been in that commercial. So she's really hiding what she's all about. And it's quite ridiculous. People are seeing through it. We're getting the word out on it. And I tell people, look, this election in November is not so much Democrat versus Republican. What it's really coming down to is crazy versus normal. And I expect that people who are Republicans, independents, and as I say, all those Democrats to the right of Karl Marx are going to come over and vote for sanity and vote to take things back to normal.
John, talk about, are they engaging with your campaign at all? Because we're seeing throughout the country where they don't actually want to stand on a stage or they don't want to engage in anywhere. Are they prepared to do actual debates with you, or they still want to do these funky town halls, or what the cute games they're trying to play in Arizona? What is, because people are dying to see you mano a mano with your opponent.
Absolutely not. She is not going to debate. They turned on our 2 debates. We had 2 scheduled. We were simply waiting on her confirmation. We had everything ready to go, and she turned down both. They do not want to debate. She's trying to say that we didn't want to, which is totally false. We have the receipts. She turned down 2 debates. They do not want to be on stage with me. All we're going to do is be very simple. Point out what she believes, point out what she has said she believes. That will destroy her entire facade she's trying to portray of being a moderate and show that she's really a far leftist. They don't want that. They know they're going to get dismantled on stage. So she turned down both of our debate offers. I would love to do it. We're going to keep hounding them. We're going to keep trying to get them to come on and do it. They will probably say no, but I would love the chance to go on stage with her. But she has rejected it, both debates that we had scheduled.
John, how do people get to the campaign to find out more about you? How do they follow you on social media? And if they're so interested in volunteering or actually contributing, where do they go?
VoteJohnGibbs.com. We're up against the Democrat big money machine. They're raising a lot. They're literally, the DCCC is having a fundraiser in Paris and Geneva, Switzerland. That's right. They're having fundraisers in France and Switzerland. That's what they're all about. So anything you can do to contribute, VoteJohnGibbs.com. VoteJohnGibbs.com, $10, $25, $50, whatever you can do. It'll be a great help to us in going up against this globalist. It costs a lot of money to stay on TV and to run everything, so we greatly appreciate that. You can also sign up for our prayer list, and if you're local, you can sign up to knock doors for us. So VoteJohnGibbs.com. That's how we're going to defeat these folks we're up against who are simply extreme in every single issue. VoteJohnGibbs.com.
I know we're going to force it one day again on stage review, and that's when it's all over. This is a tight race and a tough race out in Western Michigan. John Gibbs, thank you very much for joining us. As MAGA as
Thanks
you
for having me
John
on, Steve.
Gibbs, I'll tell you, incredible individual. Let's go to Pete Hernandez. We're going to go to California. Pete, has your opponent agreed to debate you, sir? Has she agreed to get on the stage with you and take you on mano a mano?
Funny you mention it, Steve. Just saw her at a local event in Hollister, California, Farm Bureau candidate meet and greet. I went right up to her right when I walked in. I was a little late because I was campaigning all day. I was in 3 other cities. That was my 4th city. And when I showed up, I introduced myself and basically said, Ms. Lofgren, I know you received my letter asking for a debate. Would you be willing to have that debate? Can we make that commitment today? and she basically bolted right into the bathroom. It was kind of funny. When she came back out, I asked her a second time.
Hold it. Hang on. You're breaking news here. Don't tell me she did the Katie Hobbs. She pulled a Katie Hobbs and ran and hid in the bathroom. Don't tell me that.
She did. She bolted into the bathroom. I don't know if I startled her. I don't know what happened, but somehow she just went straight to the bathroom. And I was patient. She came back out. I asked her again. She said, "Oh yeah, we just have to schedule, right? It's just a scheduling thing." And I said, "Understood." So my campaign manager, my staff has been reaching out, and fast forward, actually, we just had a candidate forum, which her own campaign manager considers supposedly a debate, but nonetheless, I went right at her and basically addressed the issues that my district is feeling, and I iterated that really clearly. At the end of the day, she showed up, she answered questions, and she left. I was the guy that I was one of the first ones there, shook a bunch of hands. It didn't matter if you were Democrat or Republican. I want to introduce myself. I want to let you know that I wanted to earn your vote. And after the end of the event, I was the last one to leave. As soon as she answered her questions, she left. She didn't give a chance even to engage the public and the voters that were there interested to hear if she was ready to address these issues.
Pete, hang on for 1 second. We'll take a short commercial break. We got a blockbuster story that's come from the great guys that open the book. Adam Andrzejewski joins us on something you're not going to believe that your tax dollars are paying for. He's a specialist in it, but I got to tell you, this one, you're going to be plenty mad, and you should be. Next, in the War Room.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, what we're seeing throughout the country is that these Democrats won't stand on stage and debate the MAGA Republicans, and here's the reason. They know that they've embraced the Biden radical agenda and they're going to get blown off the stage. You're going to lose even more than they're losing, and we're winning everywhere. Some of these young candidates on the rise are just incredible. Pete Hernandez. Pete, you wrote an incredible piece we have up on War Room about crime. Walk me through. Give me a couple of minutes on that.
Highlight the travesty of the left. It's implementing these decriminalization laws, the defund the police movements, right? That's basically increased crime. You know, you have every 9 minutes there's a crime in Santa Clara County, which is part of my district. And then you end up having, obviously, this, even under COVID, right, where they released prisoners, and ultimately it was supposedly to address COVID, but in reality, all it did was try to make it permanent to where they're just trying to empty out the prisons. And between smash and grabs, no cash bail, all the things that are damaging our communities because there's no accountability, right? And to be clear, these are rules for us, but not for the elite, not for those that are in office, right? My opponent Zoe actually has officers basically standing guard around her home. She has a nice big house with walls and big gates, right? And she has all the security in the world while our community is suffering. So those are the things that make me passionate to fight for the average everyday American. Because
do you think when she saw you and ran into the bathroom and not debating you, number one, do you think she's showing disrespect to the Hispanic community? Do you think if you were white, this would be different? If she doesn't consider you like a real candidate or you're not a real serious opponent because you're a Hispanic male?
I don't think she takes the Latino community serious. Yeah, I do believe there's kind of this sentiment that somehow the minority population she assumes to represent when she goes to Washington, but all she's doing is dividing us with her crazy policies that are, like I said, the defund the police sentiment, the open borders policies, everything that Joe Biden, right? She literally voted 100% for his policies, which have been a disaster for the safety of our public.
I want, by the way, tomorrow she's going to be, I guess she'll be zoomed in or something for this hearing that nobody wants. The cable doesn't even want to pick it up at 1 o'clock, the J6, of what she's one of the big mouthpieces for. How does everybody get to your campaign finally? Because you've made this competitive through just sheer force of personality and getting out there in the community. How do people track you, Pete?
So they can go to hernandezforcongress.com, hernandezforcongress.com. Just to kind of point out really quick, Steve, we have on October 22nd a big event, Values Advocacy Council is doing at Calvary Chapel. It's an all-American Latino event. We have big names from Lexit, Anthony Cavazza, who's a El American reporter, and a lot of Latinos in the community. They're basically really interested. We're going to be talking about the issues, the very things that matter to our constituency. So HernandezForCongress.com, we need money, we need resources. We're grassroots. We're talking to every single voter, and with with the War Posse, we could totally use their help.
Yeah, and I want to make sure to tell my staff and the guys in Memphis, I want to get that up, and we'll put it out on all our social media and up on our site, the 27th of October. Looking forward to that.
22nd of October.
22nd. Let me get that right. 22 October. Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we've had Adam and thanks, brother. We've had Adam Andrzejewski on many times from Open the Books. I got to tell you, Adam, I don't think I've read anything that made me madder. And there are many things that you have put up on Open the Books to show where people's tax dollars go that make me mad. But this infuriated me, and I think it'll infuriate people to know where their tax dollars are going. Walk us through this latest investigative report that you've done, sir.
So the Pentagon has K through 12 schools where they educate up to 60,000 children of our servicemen and women. You know, people signed up to defend this country. They have families. The kids go into these schools. And look, there's a $3 billion budget, taxpayer funded, that backstops these schools. So it's very expensive in terms of their education. Last December, for the first time, these K through 12 schools hired a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, and she's been fast-tracked. She spent 2 months as a DEI specialist. They put her in as chief with tremendous responsibility, Steve, across the entire continuum. Here's how it was described. She's got input now into the curriculum, to the assessment of students, to the hiring of educators, teachers, and administrators, and also their professional development. So this is somebody that was handpicked. We found in our investigation that she promotes radical ideologies, and she just may have crossed the line. She certainly blurred all the lines between her government position and multiple private entrepreneurial for-profit opportunities.
What do you mean by that? Talk about the crossing the line and talk about these opportunities.
So in May of 2021, this is 4 months before she becomes the DEI specialist and 6 months before she's promoted into this powerful position as the DEI chief. So she addresses a Pentagon K through 12 education conference. This is a taxpayer-funded platform. She puts up a slide. She's the author of books. 3 of the books are on her slide. Her personal website, where she promotes her for-profit consultancy business in education, where she charges schools up to $1,000 per session. She puts up her private Twitter handle. Okay, so right there, unless she had prior permission to do that, and that would be in what looks to be an exception to the Pentagon's rule, that would cross the line. We want that investigated. She's already under investigation for her tweets that Fox News found disparaged white people. The DOD put her under investigation for those tweets. Our 3,000 word investigation published on our Open the Book Substack account goes a lot deeper. It goes into all of the blurring of the lines between what she's advocated and what she and how she makes money with her private businesses outside of her full-time executive position at the Department of Defense.
Talk to me about one of the shocking things in your piece, and if we can get the piece up on the screen. Talk to me about the titles of the books. Walk me through, because we have another situation, another investigation from the great guys over at the National File. Frankie Stokes is going to join us here in a second about these books. Talk to us about, she's author. Let's talk about her books.
So 45 copies of her books are actually in the Department of Defense Education Activities Agency. That's the sub-agency that handles the K through 12 education. 45 copies of her books are in 11 school libraries. And this is interesting because many of these books have only been written in the last 8 months. Okay, so there are books on what is Black Lives Matter, what is white privilege. And on the cover of the book, it has a white hand way above the hands of black and brown hands. And then what is defund the police? And I looked at the Defund of the Police book, as we did the other books, and it also has abolishing the police as an option. And you might think this is radical and crazy, and certainly to teach the children of our military service members that, that abolishing the police locally is an option. But this is actually being run by the mayor of Austin, Texas, the capital city of Texas, who has floated that idea and hopes in the future that they abolish the police.
What is, for our audience, diversity, equity, and inclusion? For some of our audience that maybe doesn't follow this as closely as that, what is a diversity? Why do you even need a diversity, equity, and inclusion, particularly over at DOD, which is the Department of Defense and the military was always the first desegregated. It has always been the most even-handed. What is DEI, and what does it stand for?
So it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the best way to think about this, it's the opposite of what Martin Luther King advocated. So he advocated to judge people on the content of their character, not the color of your skin. A DEI coordinator puts skin color first. They also use terms, and this is very important to define for the audience. For instance, she says she's an anti-racist. We're all anti-racist. We don't believe in racism. We're against racism, 100%. It's a 99.9% issue across the country. But then this is how she defines anti-racism. It means uprooting, dismantling the current education environment and replacing it and creating it with something brand new. And she is in charge, of course, of professional development of the teachers and the administrators. And she says in her counseling session, she tells them that they have to make a decision on whether or not they're going to support the quote unquote, her words, white dominated education environment. So she wants to rip down education in the K through 12 military schools as it is today and replace it along the lines of the ideologies and radical ideologies that she promotes.
Talk to us. Is this one of the reasons I think that the Army just missed the recruiting by 25%? Because you go in and you have your kids educated on these bases, and the next thing you know, you have these radicals that are all about, making kids feel terrible about themselves. Stuff they did no fault of their own, really turning into ideology versus teaching kids. What service member? Why would you do this? Why would you bring your family into this? So, is this one of the reasons that you believe that just not morale, esprit de corps, but also recruiting is through the floor, and that they blame it on video games and obesity? There's got to be something deeper than that to miss by that big a number, Adam.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, Steve. Look, in the military K through 12 schools, it's top down. Amongst the rest of the education establishment across the country in K through 12 schools, there's federal money and it comes with strings. Certainly there's state money, it comes with strings, but there's a semblance of local control. You elect a local school board to make decisions. Not so in the military's K through 12 public schools. It's a top-down institution. And that's why this DEI chief, this Kalisha Wing, the new position that they created just for her is so important. She's always been transparent about her beliefs, her principles, and her values. And she was picked specifically by the director, Thomas Brady, of DODEA, the Department of Defense Education Activities Sub-Agency of the DOD, in this powerful position to pick the curriculum, to do the assessments of the children, and then to be involved in the hiring of teachers and administrators, principals, and their regional superintendents, and their professional development. That's why this is so troubling.
This is an obscenity, and we're going to make her famous. Okay, we're going to make her famous. Real quickly, Adam, how do people, you do great work over there, how do they find out the site to get these reports, and how do they follow you on social media?
So if you could put up the link to our Open the Book Substack piece on Kalisha Wing and this agency. Steve, make no mistake, she is under review, but she is a product of the system. She's never misrepresented herself. She's always been forthright in her beliefs, and now she's being aggressively fast-tracked and promoted.
Adam, thank you very much. We're going to stay on this story because it's so important to our servicemen and women. We're going to make sure that we set things right, as we say. So thank you.
Thank you.
National Files, Frankie Stokes, we've had him on before. He's been doing some amazing investigative reporting. Also, Ann Taydus, a activist. Frankie, this one is quite disturbing. Tell us, and I want to tell the audience beforehand, it's disturbing because of the material you're going to talk about. Walk us through what this story is, and then I'll bring Ann in.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on. So in Chesterfield County, Virginia, a 5-year-old young girl, a kindergarten student, was sent home from school with a copy of the book "I'm Not a Girl." The book is written by a transgender teenager who went through this hideous procedure at an extremely young age, and it revolves around a young girl deciding that she's no longer a girl. The cover image is a little girl staring longingly into a barber shop as a little boy gets his hair cut. At another point in the story, the little girl herself is in the barber shop getting a boy's haircut. The book was marketed directly to kids through a display at the library, and it's completely unrestricted by age, no parental consent, no nothing. And this is understandably, this has outraged the community and outraged the parents. National File spoke directly with the father who told us that the response from the school was basically, if you don't want your 5-year-old learning about the transgender movement, then you need to write a letter to the school expressly barring your child from checking out each individual book that you do not want her to read. They completely put the burden on the parents, dodged all accountability.
Hang on. You're telling me the Chesterfield school system, which is, I'm from Richmond, is one of the most renowned school systems, not just in the Commonwealth, but in the country. You're telling me a 5-year-old brings this book home. Their parents are obviously shocked, as any parent would be. And the response they get is you got to come and send a letter on each specific book that your child's not supposed to take out, or they're going to be able to look at all this literature. Was that the response from the school system?
Yes, sir. Yes, it was. And, this is as kind of as the eyes of the nation were on Loudoun County. Chesterfield has been operating under the same principles. They've been promoting hypersexualized material, pro-trans material to very small kids right through their school libraries. And this is something the National File is digging into. And this is something that we're consulting with local parents on, because this is an issue that's got to get out to the public.
Frankie, hang on for 1 second. Let me bring in Ann Taydus. And how the parental rights movement, when you think about it, with Governor Youngkin's campaign and MAGA coming up, and we had dozens of parents from Northern Virginia to down in Hampton around Fort Eustis. I don't know if we ever got any from Central Virginia, but this was top of mind. This is why essentially Youngkin won the governorship. How could this possibly be going on, and how could the schools be so arrogant about the rights of parents and about the pornography that their children are seeing?
Well, I can tell you, I was Central Virginia. Keystone Acres was my first Governor Youngkin rally, and I was part of getting the 7 districts, so I was an integral part of it. And I had heard buzzings about what he had done before, and I could walk up to him right now and say, Glenn, we need to talk, because what's going on, I can tell you, and I know in Loudoun, it is by far scarier, and our transgender policy is more radical than any other adopted point blank without question on August 10th, 2021. And we appreciate the attention that National File has given us, because we've been back here waving our arms for probably over a year now that this is on. And there's so much focus on Fairfax and Loudoun that nobody else, the whole state is going through this. It's not just 2 counties, and people need to know that.
But hang on for a second. This is my point. Glenn Youngkin rattled the entire nation, and quite frankly, Governor Youngkin's out in campaigning for Kerry Lake and Tudor Dixon. There's all kind of rumors and talk that he's thinking about running for president in 2024. This was why he was elected. What's blowing people's heads up when I read Frankie's piece, I thought this was all put to bed. How could you be
No.
sitting there and telling us that the state school system is on fire with this radical transgender ideology? How's that working?
He's lying. So I'm loud on social media and I get a lot of attention, and it's because I don't play political parties. I play for the children. And this could have been solved when he went into office. I tell people he ran on the back of a transgender rape victim into office. If I was a Loudoun County parent, I would have had a door like this on day 2. And so I started making noise, going to the Board of Education meetings like I do every month. And I had 2 people call me from within the department saying he's had the new policy that was in July now. And so I started getting loud about that. And so all of this that's going on now is October. He was elected almost a year ago. And then comes up is that we know all over the state that have said, we're not doing it. Has he once said, we know he's not going to be? So at this point,
okay.
No.
And we're having a very tough time. You're coming in. Hang on. You're having a very tough time. You're coming in and out, and we're running out of time. I'm telling my staff we're gonna have to. It's not enough time to reboot you, but we'll figure out how to get you on tomorrow's show. But we got to get that audio taken care of because you only every second or third word is coming out. Frankie, how do you get to your social media national file? How do we get to Ann's? We want to follow up on this because I tell you, people are shocked. Everybody assumed that this was taken care of. This is why Glenn Youngkin's governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and to hear Ann Taydus, who's an activist, one of these parental rights activists, saying really nothing's been done is pretty shocking. How do you get to the national file? How do you get to the story you, and how do they get to Ann Taydus?
No, anyone can visit nationalfile.com. We're following these issues closely in Virginia, around the nation. You can contact me on social media. Follow me on social media, Stokes76, Stockes 76. That's on Twitter, Gab, Getter, Truth Social. And I would encourage everyone to reach out online, to connect online with Virginians for Children's First. That is Ann's organization, virginiansforchildrensfirst.org. And they are doing phenomenal work all over the Commonwealth.
And we're gonna follow the story. We'll get back on it tomorrow because this has national political implication. I mean, Youngkin's run around for president saying that this thing's fixed in Virginia. We're hearing from a parent, one of the parent rights leaders, that no, we got a huge problem in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Okay, tomorrow we're going to be back on fire talking about the red tsunami that is building. But what you got to make sure is this red tsunami is going to work. Got to take care of these problems. See you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. in the War Room.